We're back on the Sports Zone. I am Mike Aglialoro. Now, technically, the baseball season started last weekend with the Dodgers and Diamondbacks playing a two-game series in Australia. But the rest of the baseball season for us in this hemisphere of the world kicks off tomorrow night with the Dodgers and Padres playing on ESPN. And, of course, the rest of the baseball season starts after that. And I will be going to the Mets opening day at Citi Field this year, where they play the Nationals. Dylan G starting against Steven Strasburg, so that should be fun. But seeing as how I came to you last time, looking at things from a fantasy perspective in football, and the NFL season is still a good 4 or 5 months away, let's take a look at 5 guys for fantasy baseball purposes that I feel are being undervalued so far. Guys, I will start off with third baseman for the Colorado Rockies, Nolan Arenado. Came up, had a decent debut for the Colorado Rockies when he was promoted in late April and won the Gold Glove. He was the first National League rookie in history to win a Gold Glove. The reputation with him has always been more of a glove first than a bat, but he does have solid plate recognition skills, and this is a guy who could conceivably hit somewhere between 270 and 290 for the bulk of his career. And if he can develop 20-25 home run power to go with 70 to 90 RBIs, and when you're hitting behind guys like Michael Kadire, Carlos Gonzalez, Troy Tulowitzki, and even Justin Morneau, he's going to wind up getting his RBI opportunities one way or another, and the power is going to come, especially playing at Coors Field. He was barely ranked in the top 15 if you go according to Yahoo Stats. So this guy definitely has top 10, top 8 potential in terms of third baseman. Third base is always a very difficult position to get a grasp on, and it always winds up being one of the weaker positions in the game, especially over the last few years. So if you can grab Arenado, or the next guy we're going to talk about is Jett Jerko of the San Diego Padres. He actually plays second base nowadays. Started off his career as a third baseman. Doesn't qualify as a third baseman in every league. Doesn't qualify in ESPN leagues as a third baseman. He does qualify as second and third in Yahoo leagues. And this is a guy who has a lot of power. And he showed that last year. 23 home runs in 486 at-bats. Did hit 249, did strike out a lot, continuing the trend from his minor league numbers. I believe he can cut down on his strikeouts, and even if he only does it a slight bit, and that batting average gets up to 265, 270, he becomes a top 10 second baseman. And second base has been a little deeper over the last couple of years, but it's also a position that can feel extremely thin if the guy you're relying on gets hurt midway through the season. So Jerko's a quality addition, especially in a backup role, which we're going to move to first base. Matt Adams, who we talked about earlier this offseason, hit over 20 home runs, not even 300 at-bats, is being given the full-time first base position. Alan Craig, who split time with him last year, is being moved to right field to replace Carlos Beltran. They don't think Oscar Taveras is ready just yet. So Matt Adams gets the benefit from this, and he has 30 home run power. You saw that in his limited time that he was given last season. So with this promotion, if you get him late, this is a guy who could wind up producing top 10 first base numbers by the end of the season. First base is always extremely deep, but if you get the right one, he can carry your team. And Adams can do the same thing now that he's being given the opportunity. Next, we'll move to the outfield, and the outfield is always a deep position for fantasy purposes, and you could definitely find guys like Chris Davis and Leonys Martin who are being taken late. Leonys Martin, some are predicting to be a top 15 fantasy outfielder by the end of the season. I like him. I don't know if I like him that much. But a guy who I like late, if you're saving outfield till the end of your draft, is a guy, Chicago White Sox outfielder Avisail Garcia. He had 304 for the White Sox after he was acquired in a 3-team deal from the Detroit Tigers in the trade that saw Jose Iglesias go to the Tigers and Jake Peavy go to the Boston Red Sox. He's always had the potential. He was just never really given the opportunity in Detroit. He showed what he could do in a full-time role for the White Sox at the end of last season with the 304 batting average. He does have 20 home run, 20 stolen base potential. And even though he's probably going to start the year towards the bottom of the order, behind guys like Paul Konerko and maybe even the Cuban import Jose Abreu at first base and other guys like Diane Visadio, this is a guy who could wind up hitting towards the middle of the order for the White Sox no later than mid-May in my eyes. So if you can get him late, he's definitely worth the flyer. And the last guy we're going to talk about from a pitching standpoint, I like Seattle's James Paxton. This is a guy who was really touted the least out of the big three Seattle prospect arms. Danny Holson went down for the season with rotator cuff surgery in October. He's still recovering. And Taijuan Walker's going to miss at least the first month of this season with his own injury. Paxton does have the potential. He may not have the best minor league numbers in the world, but he came up and had a banner September, went undefeated. Small sample size, I know, but this is a guy who's going to have the opportunity. He does have the talent, and I think he's going to be able to put it together this season. I like him a lot better than the other guy who's been fairly touted in Seattle's rotation, Erasmo Ramirez. Neither of them are Felix, but then again, who is? So to recap, if you get the chance, take a flyer on Nolan Arenado at third base. Jett Jerko could play second and third in Yahoo leagues, only second base in ESPN leagues. Matt Adams at first base, Avisail Garcia in the outfield, and James Paxton, the pitcher from Seattle. Make sure you take a look at some of the other articles on ThisIsSportsZone.com. Take a look at George Murphy's rant towards Jon Heyman, his reaction towards Jon Heyman's predictions for Major League Baseball this season. I found it very funny when I was putting it up myself. Make sure you take a look at Tom Lembo's Fixing the Fight Game. And coming this weekend, I really will never be able to figure out why I asked him to do it, but I decided to let Eric Tressler do a preview from a non-Met fan perspective of the New York Mets. That will be coming out this weekend, as will Brian Zamorski's season preview of the New York Yankees, and Jay Roski's looking at the NBA as well. Thanks for watching, folks. As always, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at WeAreSportsZone. Send us any questions and comments you may have. Thanks for watching, folks. Once again, for This Is Sports Zone, I am Mike Aglialoro. We will see you next time, folks.